again, God only knows what great things we could manage under such conditions. We're becoming incredibly technologically powerful. And what would it be what would it be like if we became equally wise? Well, that would really be something. God only knows what we could manage in the next 20 years or the next 100 years, you know? We're running at 40%, most of us, you know, because we're half in and half out. And it's not surprising because life is difficult. It's like, well, what if you were 90% in or 95% in or all in? Because you're all in anyways, right? It's a life and death game. No one gets out of this. Everyone dies. You might as well commit yourself. And you might as well commit yourself to the highest good that you can attain, because why not? It'll imbue your life with meaning. It's hard, the responsibility's there, but all the meaning's in the responsibility, and that'll make your life better. It'll make your family's life better, and it should make your culture better. Maybe it make the world better. It's like, that'll justify your damn miserable existence at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're wondering what the hell you're doing here. And that's a good thing, because there's going to be days when you're aching and tired and sore, and there's people in your family that are sick, and you're cynical and bitter, and you need a reason to get up, and you think, yeah, well, a little more heaven and a little less hell, maybe I can pull that off today and tomorrow and next week. And that's worth struggling forward for.
Hello and welcome here of my YouTube channel, abit_hex. I'm so excited. Today is Valentine's Day. Yuri is with me here in Mexico. Life is going amazing. And today we have this so cool show prepared for you guys. We have so much to talk about with AXiS ALiVE is here live. We have a little bit more than 1 hour, I believe, to talk about the most amazing topics in crypto. The God whale is doing nothing. Obviously, we will talk about that, look into this topic. But before, I want to bring up AXiS ALiVE. And hey, AXiS ALiVE, how's it going? You have so many new things to talk about. I wanted to bring you up right away because in the lobby, you were actually explaining for me that nothing matters anymore. I have found the Holy Grail. I have a nice chart analysis that I can now present you. And there is even an inner circle that we can buy into with some of our engagement, for example, just by learning, we can learn what you know in your head. So I hope this was a great introduction. Everybody is fired up already. I see it in the chat. AXiS ALiVE, how's it going?
Very good, man. Thank you for inviting me on your show. And everyone in the chat, what's up? I see some familiar names up there. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and that was a very powerful clip by Jordan Peterson in the beginning. A call to action of sorts to fully commit oneself to something that they really believe in for the betterment of everybody. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And so yeah, that's a definitely a good way to start this talk, because this goes way beyond just cryptocurrency, but at the end of the road, all of this together will enrich our lives. So pretty excited to share this time with you today. Appreciate it.
And I cannot think of having anybody better on for this topic that we have today. We want to do analysis. We want to look into addresses of what people are doing, especially such a big player like the God whale. And, you know, it's just beautiful that you brought that up, the intro with Jordan B. Peterson. You're the first one to do that. And, you know, it really touched me when I saw that. And obviously it has nothing to do with trading. He is talking about improvement and how much effort you really give in life. But this is how I see my life every single day. I have to the feeling a lot of us Hexicans, a lot of people in crypto, so many human beings are all in right now, and what a time to be in there. Do we have we reached the bottom? How does it look for Hex? All of this we will also then discuss obviously later after we just ask you a couple of questions, and then we also jump into AXiS ALiVE. This is the new thing that you wanted to bring up. So let me start with the first question here, just for the new viewers. You know, we onboard all the time. Most of our viewers, we have to say, are new people. They don't know you. So give us a little elevator pitch. Who is AXiS ALiVE? For how long are you in crypto already?
Okay. Yeah, so I've been doing crypto since 2017. I was first made aware of Bitcoin. in March of 2017. I may have heard of it before that, but I only really recall this one significant moment in my life, which was March of 2017. I was sat down at the kitchen table with my friend, and he was explaining how he missed out on Bitcoin and how Bitcoin was $1,000 and he could have bought it for $200 a few years ago, and how he missed the boat. And we started talking about Bitcoin a little bit, and he said, "Well, you can mine it." And I was like, "What is mining?" And he explained to me how there was a process in cryptocurrency and in Bitcoin and Ethereum where you could legally print money. And that immediately interested me because in 2009, almost a decade prior, I had this awakening moment where I watched a few documentaries, I fell down the rabbit hole, I started to learn about how the Federal Reserve central banking system was in complete control of the money supply. And I started to dig a little deeper on some of the big anomalous events that occurred, like, for example, 9/11 and some of the big question marks around it. And I certainly started to think about this stuff and question, like, my very existence in the world, and really question who was in control of the world and how did the money system work. And so for almost like 8 or 9 years, I was always looking for a solution to the money problem, which was like, well, how do we get back our people's money? And so when my friend told me that you could legally print Bitcoin, I was immediately interested. And my first thought, and this is the way my brain works, was my first thought was, wait, dude, we could build a solar farm or a wind farm and mine it for free. That was like the first thought I had. It was like, let's harness alternative energy technologies and cryptocurrency mining to completely get off of central banking grid through legacy finance and legacy energy sector. And because my whole interpersonal goal was always to create a community or a movement that was able to help push humanity forward and move technology in the right direction and get away from this mechanistic copy paste. Let's just reinvent, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just make the same thing over and over and over again. We've basically been getting the same cell phone model every year for the last 10 years, repackaged and upcharged another $100. And I just don't agree with the entire model of how technology is pushed forth through the consumerism and stuff. And I think we need to get away from that and harness real groundbreaking technologies. So cryptocurrency was the bedrock or the foundation that I saw a future for the world that was completely free and open and fair for everybody.
Wow, that's so powerful, AXiS Live. This is really just like you have seen something and learned something that then changed the world for you. Is this described correctly? Like, I bet from there on, you were just like on it, learning about it, improving. At one time, you were making gains and so on, right? Like, I wanted to bring it to this because you described it so beautiful, and I almost feel a little bit ashamed. So let's spend a little bit of time with this topic. Do you think at the end, all cryptocurrency is just a ticker symbol that we buy to hope that the price goes up in the future so we can then sell it? Is this really everything we can bring it down when we bring it to cryptocurrency? And obviously, guys, don't worry. I have other questions here prepared as well. We're just exploring some thoughts of AXiS ALiVE here.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I think if like you're a level 1 thinker, your behavior is predictable. So if you're the type of person that thinks, I'm not saying you are, I'm saying if somebody is, which is the majority of people that sees a ticker symbol that is going up in value, you want a piece of that action. So now that's a behavior that's predictable, and that's something that you can program innovation behind. So then the level 2 thinker is like the coder or the programmer that can design a system that gives that behavior type a positive outcome. So like, you got level 1 thinkers and level 2 thinkers, but level 3 thinkers are the ones that can see 50 or 100 years into the future, and they combine the behavior patterns of the masses with the best and most innovative technology and lay down the roadmap for a better future. So like, yeah, there might be that base level of cryptocurrency where there's trading and people chasing like short-term gains and chasing green candles. And the level 2 and level 3 thinkers need those people because they're the ones that pushes the price up on things that actually are meaningful, that creates these new floors in price that is forever holds as support. Basically, the entire Bitcoin chart is just almost 15 years of like this kind of a curve where everybody that came before them pushed the price up, and then their carcasses were everything on the way back down. And then you create a floor, and then that leads in the next wave of innovation, and then the cycle repeats. And that's the same for any monetary achievement, any amazing company, any kind of advance in technology and society. It's all just ticker symbols with human behavior modifying the value of something based on a price denominated in a money that inflates forever. So I think there's just a lot of elements there that you could break down, but I think ultimately it's not neither good or bad that you have those actors. Each one of them is an actor in a full whole world, whole universal ecosystem of people, and they all are relying on each other for the ultimate outcome, which is that together they can create a better world.
Exactly, like this last sentence, this is all that I live for, that we all can create a better world. This is why we went on the 5555 tour, for example, went to 42 cities to do workshops for free. And then AXiS, at one of those, you were as well, and you were just telling us about your aha moment in crypto. And from there on, everything just elevated. And you, John, had a second aha moment like this again when you saw us, KSB Lion and Avid Hex, in this case, me, right? So tell us a little bit about this particular situation, what happened there, and what was it exactly that made this click for you in Hex to understand, wow, this is the code, this is where I want to look deeper into.
Okay. So this is an important part between when I transitioned out of Bitcoin and Ethereum mining and I decided to go all in on something bigger. So I was a day one Hexican, and I was taking the coins that I mined, the profit that I mined from that facility, and I was putting it into Hex on day one and day two. And I didn't have a lot at that time because, as you know, with mining comes a lot of overhead. So like your margins are really squeezed, especially in the bear market in 2019. So fast forward, I made my first two purchases and I locked that stuff up for the future. And I tried to time up my locks with what would inevitably be the 2022-2021 bull run. Okay. So the one that came out in 2022 came out in January, and that was like a really good timing. But along that time frame, I had walked away from Hex for almost 8 or 9 months, and it wasn't until the God Whale pumped the price up that I actually went back and realized what had happened. And like I was like, wow, there's something here that I missed, right? So fast forward, I started watching the price more. I didn't make any more purchases because in my mind it was still a shitcoin because I was still a BTC and ETH maxi at that time. And so fast forward to big payday, the price runs up to 1.50 cents. It's hundreds of X up at this point. I start DCAing in, and I'm like, dude, I need to capture as many of these T-shares as possible. But I didn't know quite why yet. So then it was in January of 2021. I was watching Maddie's Hex conference, and Abit and Lion come on for their segment, and they started talking about the compounding effect of the T-share rate, and they had projections on there of how the daily payout in Hex was going to go up exponentially over time. And that was the day that for me T-shares really clicked and made me decide that this might be something worth digging, like basically going all in on, or basically just refocusing my attention in crypto around it, because it already had immutable code and great price performance, and you had a T-share rate that was always going to run away from you. And so to me, those were really attractive features. And now that I knew that the daily payout was going to compound, which incentivizes you to stake Hex longer into the future, which is a pumpamental that holds up the price. In my mind, all of the gears started to click into place, and I was like, okay, I really understand this. Richard Hart did it. He fixed a problem, and he monetized the only thing that matters in crypto, which is time. The only thing that matters in money, which is time and investment. Which kind of took the whole entire crypto world by storm in DeFi summer, when you combine the power of a time locking cryptocurrency with mad gains with Uniswap, which was like on-chain trading. That was like a match made in heaven. And like, I think there was a lot of things going on in the background at that time that made that work. And so yeah, you guys helped me realize the importance of the T-shares. And so I was able to capture, and now I've been getting yield since Big Payday, on a bunch more hex that I didn't have for the first year, basically, because most of my DCAs came in little like before and then right around when you guys helped me realize that. So
Man,
my
that
point is that you guys, we all have an active part in this, and you never know who you're going to touch or who you're going to help realize something important. Even if you think you're only streaming to 10 people, or you're talking to some random person down the street about it, or you're on an airplane and you're talking to your buddy or some random person about it. Like, you never know who's going to tell who, and how the network effect really will play out in the real world, and who's going to find out about this thing. So it's a call to action for all of us to get out there and to try to spread the word, because once once these cheap prices of hex are gone, they're gone forever. And that's on you, that you didn't tell enough people to get exposure to this thing before their minimum wage job can only get them 10 or 20 tokens, right? Like, now is the time when people can still get thousands of tokens for what is a meaningful amount of money for them.
Man, this is so powerful. Thank you for sharing. I really did not know about the story. I hear that today for the first time, and it really almost brought the tears to my eyes. And you know what? I think what we should do, let's bring up my screen share. And here is exactly what AXiS ALiVE saw on that day. We were able to show him those two graphs, the daily payout calculation, where maybe we can even go into the graph here for a second, because then we warm up already our viewers here on what does it mean and what did you really say, and then we obviously go into some technical analysis. So here, guys, this is the daily payout that exists in Hex every single day. Hex inflates by 3.69%, and what you see here on the chart is how much Hex is daily given out to the staker class. And now, because of the calculation on how much hex you get per T-share, we can easily calculate on how much hex you get per one T-share and how much that is. Maybe to make it easy, you can also find that on Hex Daily Stats, but we want to really show you what AXiS ALiVE saw on this particular day that made everything click for him. And if you understand this, you understand Hex, and this is why we, like AXiS ALiVE, Cabana Crypto, RG3, MediAllIn, ABIT Hex, and so many other more in the world are doing what we're doing, because we think we have found the holy grail. So let's go back here to the calculation, where you see that all we have to do is divide the daily payout per T-share, the daily payout per day divided by the T-share pool, which is about 10 million. And so right now we get 6.3 hex per T-share every single day that we are staked, right? So this is amazing by itself. This is trustless yield. This is not asking anybody for permission to earn yield and make more money with your money. But then when it really may click is when, I guess, we presented maybe this calculation here, where it says, look, back then, today, it is 65 million hex that is given out to the staker class. But because how the code is written, this will enhance in the future, and then it will be 85 million divided by 9 million, for example, and the outcome could be 9.4 hex. So this is exponentially more than it was before, even though it maybe looks so simple, right, from 6 to 9. But in the end, it will make a big difference. And AXiS, can you maybe talk a little bit about why this little gap here makes such a difference?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of reasons. Well, the main reason is that if you have a T-share, every day that you're getting, originally it basically started to average out where you're getting 5.75 hex per T-share. That was about a year and a half ago. Well, nowadays you're getting almost 6.25 to 6.5. So you're almost getting a one more hex per day, which might not seem a lot when the price is at 5 cents. But by the time 2030, 2035 rolls around, you could be seeing upwards of 9, 10, even 20 hex per T-share due to the compounding effect of the share rate. And that is a 3 to 4 times the amount of hex that you're getting per T-share per day. So that's actually significant. Now, you, instead of getting, 6 nickels per day, now all of a sudden you're getting like 15 or 20 nickels per day at this price. But one thing that you got to keep in mind is that by the time you're getting 15 or 20 nickels per day, they're not nickels anymore. Now they're $5 bills, because that's how the price compounds against the moving share rate. And this is a function of market cycles. So this is the hard part for people to understand, is what looks like not that much of a gain now will end up becoming much more of a gain due to the fact that the price can move up so rapidly on such low liquidity.
And this is exactly what we want to talk about later on when we go and look into AXiS ALiVE and just tell us more about your product. Then it's going to be so interesting. And something that I also wanted to share is, it's so crazy what the people are talking about out there. Normally I would not do that and just like do trash talk, and go to Twitter and follow the last trend, what is written there. But this Space Union coin is saying, I think that Godwell is an account controlled by Richard Hart. Someone else runs it, but it's really Richard Hart. That's my 2 cents. And I'm saying that would be so funny. Well, so what is your idea? The Godwell, is it Richard Hart or not? Because you said that the Godwell was one of the reasons where you said, I have to look into Hex, right? This was about 3 to 4 months after Hex started. This was also really close to the lowest price, I believe, of Hex. So really, really
in the
interesting.
beginning. Yeah, if you want to pull up my screen, I can show you where it happened on the chart. So I didn't know who it was that did this to the chart, but some guy came along and pumped the price. 1 second while my chart loads here. Pumped the price like crazy, and I was like, what the heck just happened? And then I went back and looked at it later on, and the community was talking about this guy. Basically, the price was trading like this. Just, ticking along, no big deal. And then all of a sudden you started to get a pump. And then in one day, this big candle printed. And this was a guy that put in 10,000 Ethereum and market bought and pushed the price up 120% in one candle. And that was amazing. I was like, well, what the heck? And, but here I didn't know about any of this that was going on. I was completely oblivious. But one day I opened up my portfolio app on my phone, and then all of a sudden this move was happening, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? And so then obviously, first off, I'm gonna just go out on a limb here and say I don't think Richard Hart is the Godwell. I think they're 2 different people. However, yeah.
Same with me. Like, I am 100% convinced that this is not Richard Hart. Like, Richard Hart, obviously you could go in both directions, but my point is that Richard Hart would totally behave different than the Godwell is doing. Or is he not? Like, later on, when we look into the Godwell, I mean,
just think
what
about
you can
what he
easily
was.
do is that you look at this candle and then you're interested. Right now, Hex is something really new for you. Have you looked into the address on what coin did do that? Because this is exactly what I did back then.
Yeah,
I'm in Hex since day one. Give me 1 second. I was in Hex day since one, but not intentionally, just like you. Like, I was like full of faith into Richard Hart because he changed my life through a video, and there, like, everything changed for me. And I was putting in my $10, and it took me a while, for example, to have the aha moment for me. It was like 6 months after Hex launched, right? Where I realized, okay, now this is really something, and this is the compounding effect, and I should really pay attention more and more. And it's just so interesting that we both had, like, on this day, and I think so many other Hexicans had on this day something that was going on and changed their life forever again. So crazy. Yeah. So go on, what else is there to say?
Yeah, well, just that, there's a lot. Well, at this point, like, Richard was, okay, the guy that put this in was an Ethereum Genesis whale. That means that he bought Ethereum like in the very, very beginning of Ethereum. But Richard Hart was a Bitcoin maxi back around that time, and he talked trash about Ethereum for years. Years. He thought it was like a scam Ponzi. So there's just it doesn't make sense that Richard Hart is publicly out there for 2018 and 2019, basically all of 2018 and 2017, saying Bitcoin's the king store of value. Ethereum is a trash scam coin. Meanwhile, the Godwell, the guy that injected 10,000 Ethereum into that buy order, he had Ethereum coins from the very, very, very beginning of Ethereum. So it just doesn't add up. You know what I mean?
But obviously, you can just look into Twitter. This is social engagement. People, the Hexicans, they are giving their 2 cents. And I think it's KTP who said, you know what, Richard is a Bitcoin guy from the early beginnings. Don't you think he has friends, that are Genesis whales, that are in this space for a long time? For example, me, like, I also found Hex from the beginning. And now I met you. You're my friend, and you are in crypto way longer than me, right? So it is possible that Richard Hart knows somebody who is a Genesis whale. At the end, it doesn't matter. You know what I would like to do? Because I know you have it down with all this technical analysis. I want to use you a little bit. Since Case Beeline is not here in the show, you need to do the technical analysis for me, why don't we just go into the couple of charts like Hex, like Pulse Dogecoin, for example, somewhere there where it's really action, like the ASIC chart, for example, and then we do a little bit of analysis, and you tell me your 5 cents is what you think about those charts. But I think we should go on with the Hex chart here first. Like how did that behave once this happened? And I want to see the whole history of Hex.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, so then like obviously after that point, you just had this huge run up. So basically from the point that the God whale entered, the price went up 733%. That's a big move. He did that in 25 days. It was basically like I think it was like a 10x from here to here. Yeah, it was a 10x, right, in 27 days. And I think that was like a pretty monumental time in Hex's history. And that was coming off of a 95% drop back in the beginning. Because I think the Hex price started up here and then it crashed 97, 98%. So when I'm looking at
I was able to harvest every single day of dip. Like of this first dip, I harvested every single day and got my money in. It's so beautiful. So AXiS ALiVE, would it fair to say that we invested before the God whale?
Yeah, I think so. But then like for people just coming in now, like the price was down 95%. Like it was down 96.5% for a couple weeks. And so you're basically set up now to repeat everything that happened before all over again. It's like a complete reset on the chart. And so I think it should be encouraging for people that are coming in as a first-time buyer that they can get a piece of the action for like a nickel and ride this thing up for a possible another 10,000x over the next 5 to 10 years.
Man, that's freaking crazy. AXiS, let me ask you this question. Is it fair to say that I always make this calculation, guys? This is just random numbers I pick out of my ass to make it understandable for you guys how much of a drop that is. 96%. AXiS ALiVE just said he basically reset it, or this, what happened, resetted the whole situation. If you know about Hex today, it is for you the same opportunity like it is for AXiS or for me. So I make always this example, and please calculate with me if this is true. I once had 10 pieces, and now I only have 0.4 pieces. This much I had on the all-time high, this little bit I have today. So you can easily get in today where I also don't only have this much, because everybody is down 96%. That's a lot of percent, guys. I think this is an amazing opportunity to get into Hex, into the best performing asset. What do you think? Is it correctly the calculation that I'm doing?
So all I'm going to say is that you're basically reset back at the beginning again, as far in terms of what the price can do, because the amount of money that's sitting in the pools is basically the same as it was before we had this run up back here. So like you've came down to 96%, same as the very beginning. You've seen the price performance from the all-time low to the high. So you're down about the relatively the same amount of percent, right? And you got Pulse Chain coming, which is a pumpamental, right? That's like really good for price that we're going to get a cheaper gas system to build Hex off of. You can get a CAPI, so that's like a stock split in the stock market, where usually what happens is some company announces a stock split and then the price runs up going into the stock split. And this is like the beginning stages of, with this rumored V3 testnet on Pulse Chain, that people can get access to something that's going to run up here now in the short term as the hype train starts to build. I mean, that's not even saying, I haven't even said anything about the documentary. That gets picked up by Netflix and thousands of more eyes get on this product. I mean, like, it's pretty insane that the upside potential, like a lot of the big haters or doubters of Hex say that the short-term stakers keep the price suppressed. Couldn't be further than the truth. The people that kept the price chart suppressed here for the last 500 days, they're out. They capitulated all the way along this downside. They're gone and they're out of the system now. All that's left is people that, for the most part, all the people that's left is the people that sell interest, which isn't enough to keep the price down. So I've ran the numbers. You're getting anywhere from 8 million to 12 million, or 8 million to 20 million dollars roughly of inflation per month right now. That's inflation. That's interest that's being printed. That could be sold. Not all of that 8 to 20 million dollars is being sold. But in the last 2 weeks, we've done like $95 million of volume. So that 8 to 20 million, even if all of it was sold, would get totally absorbed by the market. So the market can absorb that inflation plus push the price higher based on current supply and demand.
That's amazing. And I mean, you said basically that the liquidity is so low that we can go to the moon 10,000x again. But let me ask you this question. Like, I'm not following the liquidity for such a long time. I especially do not have it in my head. Like, do we have a chart of how much liquidity was there at any moment in Hex?
Mhm.
Or do we have to
do.
go? Oh, really? I thought
So
we
I-
have to really
made
go
a
by our memories here.
I did a tweet. Let's see. Let's type in liquidity.
Because Richard Hart popularized Uniswap with Hex, right? We had the most liquidity on Uniswap for a long, long time. So this is why everything should be on the blockchain, basically verifiable for us to see. And I'm so happy I have AXiS alive here, who has exactly the right chart that I wanted to see right
Yes.
now. So how
So-
high was the liquidity in the beginning when Uniswap came out with
So this was-
version 1?
This was version 1, and I went and I pulled this data. This tweet was from June 9th of last year. So I went back and found all this data. The pool went, let's see, I have to go roughly estimated. So this area right here is March 27th of 2020. And then this line here is August 7th of 2020. So during this time frame, we went from basically $0 in the pools to 4 million here on this low to 14 million up here. So we traded between 4 million and 14 million dollars in the pools, okay? On V1. Currently in the pool you have, let's see what the total is. 11.29 million. That was a trading one. We have 100, let's see, no. Where am I at here? TVL. 11.78 million. So we have 11.78 million of total liquidity. That's X, USDC, Ethereum. That's all those coins and their dollar prices combined together across all the pairs. Where did I go here? So we have right now 11. So we're sitting in this kind of a range right here. So we are at roughly the same liquidity as we had in the very beginning of Hex. Fast forward to V2. On this chart, we traded between, I think that says, let's see, 8 million here to 18 million. So we'd be somewhere in here roughly. Before the Uni V2 liquidity here, you see it drops off a cliff that all shifted to V3 at that point. Oh, so when you look at like where the price is at, where the liquidity is at, you're basically at the same place. So this was actually updated in, again, June 9th of last year, before the run up on so this was basically a hex price of, I want to say it was like 4 cents, or like 3 or 4 cents, and we had 3 million in the pools. And then we went all the way to 22 cents with basically the same amount. It was like between 3 and 6 million in the pools. So between 3 million in the pools and 6 million in the pools, the price went from 4 cents to 22 cents. Isn't that crazy? That the liquidity doesn't have to change much for the price to go up, as long as the bid, the buyers and seller demand is in an equilibrium and there's constant demand. So then like we got here, and then the price ran up to 25 or 56 cents to the all-time high, and that's when all of the real money came in, the fresh money. And instead of it just being like recycled money to get the price up, now it was all new money, and that's why you had that parabolic run up from 22 cents all the way to 56 cents.
That's beautiful to see. So all this new money that came into the market, who decided then, oh man, now it's the time to buy, and we went up to the all-time high. But until then, the liquidity was just like as it is right now, right? And this is really what the people have to understand. So is this the only thing that you see in bullish in Hex right now, or are there certain other things where you say, man, this is so bullish, I cannot wait for any news? You know, it could be anything, a post by Richard Hart that changes the market sentiment again, and we are going to the moon. Like, do you have anything more than like this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bullish things going on. Obviously, I don't, not to dwell too much on liquidity, but just the fact that if I pull up this chart here, this is the liquidity. So if you go to the right, you're going up in price. If you go to the left, you're going down in price. This big wall of liquidity is supporting price at 4.2 cents. And so this wasn't like this 3 weeks ago. Sentiment has already started to shift. Sentiment shifted when we made our bottom. And the reason why I think we made our bottom and why the liquidity shifted and now you have support at 4 cents is because of many factors. But one of the factors we can look at is the historical volatility. So I had somebody, Crispy Man from hexfire.io, make me this chart, which basically shows you the historical volatility in blue and the price in yellow. So when the historical volatility had it usually stays above this line here, which is the 1.0 line. But for the first time ever, the price of Hex basically went flat between 3 and 3.4 cents for 30 days. And because the price stayed flat, it was acting like a stable coin. It wasn't going up or down. It wasn't doing anything. It was just staying flat, which is why this blue line went down and made an all-time low. That's what that means. When volatility stops, like the coin price just stops moving. So what ended up happening was one of our big players, the God Whale, came in and he injected $4 million of liquidity into the pools and pushed the price from 3.2 cents all the way up to 5 cents in like 2.5, 3 days. So what this event did was it marked the bottom. I know that we went lower in price, but what it did was on the volatility is it marked the bottom. So what he did was he puts the 4 million into the pools, pumps the price up 2 cents from 3 to 5 cents, gets the volatility up by wildly making swings on the price. Then he entices the sellers that still want to sell hundreds of millions of Hex to come out of the woods and dump all the rest of their bags all the way down to 1.79 cents. And then if you see here, we made a higher low on volatility right when we hit that bottom price. And even though volume was low, that volume was so low that a big buyer was able to come in and shoot the price up from 1.7 up to like 2.5 in a matter of hours, which marked a double bottom, a higher low W pattern on volatility, which means God Whale actually set the bottom here at 3.2 cents by injecting that liquidity into the system to draw interest back to Hex, to give old players a chance to exit and profit, and to get all of those guys to capitulate at lower prices to then come back in later with a bunch of other big players, push the price back up super fast by increasing the volatility, and then in essence leaving everyone behind that thought lower prices were coming. So now you have a thing where the sentiment has shifted and people are starting to get scared that they might not be able to get lower prices. And that's what's supporting price right now is the fear of missing out. Because trust me, it's painful holding the price down 96.5%, but it's way more painful to watch the price run up 1,000x against you and leave you in the dust.
Especially when you have been in before, right? And when you were talking about stablecoin, I thought you were such a funny guy, but then obviously you brought up the 1.7 again and you hurt my heart. But now you're saying the prices are going up, so you're my friend again. So, I have a couple more I have a couple more questions prepared for you, but I'm afraid we will not be able to get through all those amazing topics if we do. So if we have more time later on, then we can go through these questions. Maybe this one here. What kind of advice can you give somebody who finds Hex today because of the stream that we are doing, for example, has never heard about Hex? Like, just give him some encouraging words and what does he really need to know about Hex? And then we go on with the next exciting topic, which there is the AXiS ALiVE domain. And I want to know everything about it because, man, when I saw that, I got excited and I had to call you right away for a live stream. But before, give us, as a no-coiner, what is the most important thing that you need to know about Hex right now?
Well, so if you're a no-coiner, you probably have a day job. You probably work. You probably make income. So if you can just put in a little bit of your income and dollar cost average your way into Hex when it's pennies, you're really doing yourself a huge favor. You don't have to stake it. You can stake it. There's ways to strategize around that, and Abit and Hexline and myself and many other people can help you through that process. But the first thing you need to do is get exposure before Hex is all-time highs again. Because once Hex starts to move, it moves super fast. So when I think about this, I think a good goal for a no-coiner is like, all right, set a target. Like, I want to have 50,000 Hex, or I want to have 100,000 Hex. Like 100,000 Hex right now costs you $4,800. That's a lot of money for most people that are no coiners, that are not exposed to crypto. If you're not in that boat, if you want exposure to Hex and you have a lot more, well, then you should be scheduling a consultation with somebody who knows what they're doing so they can get you in the fast lane to get exposure in a safe and secure way. But if you're just a regular person who wants to see life-changing gains, you should set a target. Like, I want to get 50,000 hex or 100,000 hex, because what might only cost you, well, let's see, what's 50,000 hex right now? What might cost you 2,400 bucks right now could turn into 240 grand in a few years. And that it's a function of market cycles, supply and demand, and just all these market terminologies that you might or might not know about. And if you want to know more about them, that's would be a good time to like look at my website, because that's what we do is we teach people how to know more about the markets. I think if you're a no coiner, just put a target out there. Like, I want to have this much hex by the end of the year.
So and this is exactly the next question that I have. Tell us about your educational platform, how you can help people, and it's even for people like me. I came into crypto. I was a pizza baker. I had the conviction that Richard Hart is the right guy to follow. Why? Because I watched this sci-fi stuff, right? So it was just, the money that I put in every single day. I just did like Richard Hart said, basically, right? Like better your life, invest in correct assets that make you free from having to do labor basically and having to waste your time, because you do the things that suck only for such a long time, but at the end you should then find something that makes you financially free. And you are just talking about Hex and the amazing opportunities, but also I'm wearing a Pulse Chain t-shirt here. There's also Pulse Chain coming out, Pulse X coming out. From both, I believe it can do something like that Ethereum did in the first 2 years, for example, which also Richard Hart said 14,000x. And I definitely go with this narrative. I'm so excited. And now, if I would have had somebody like this AXiS ALiVE who can give me all his knowledge that I can now participate from and do the right things from the moment, because I'm telling you, I'm in Hex in crypto for 3 years, and I did a couple of mistakes that probably cost me millions of dollars, if not even more. So this is why I want to show you this platform. I think it's amazing to basically harvest your brain just as a service. So tell me more about AXiS ALiVE and how no coiners or even advanced crypto people can harvest this information basically.
So there's like a lot of optionality on here. There's stuff that's for free that you can like go in and dig in, and this website will always be getting updated and formatted and made better and built out. And so there's stuff that's for free that you can go and learn yourself. There's stuff that if you want to learn a little quicker or you want more one-on-one, you can go do that. Or if you're like more advanced and you just want to see the market viewpoint, the just a big market update, like I do the chart sets where you can just get 30 or 40 slides like twice a week where you can see the way that I'm seeing the market. And then you can go back into the history and you can see all of the things that I've said might play out this way or that way and how they actually played out. So all of the data will always be there to go back and back test and compare this stuff to. I feel a lot of times that I have to sit here and explain what I called right and what I could have called better or things like that to like prove that what the value that the knowledge or that I have is like valuable and that what I say has a high probability of becoming true. So like that's why I have to tell you that in the most recently, I did a blog post and we can go into that now. I click on news logs. I do a weekly post. Well, this one from yesterday I uploaded. I go in here and I detail how Hex is holding its value against Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can see here that there was massive breakouts on these charts. And this is what you want to see. This is the beginning of a large move against the blue chip cryptocurrencies, the big ones. And this is like very, very hard for altcoins to do. Altcoins do not do these kinds of patterns. And when they do, these are the ones that you want to be in the bull run. This is basically X putting up its signal flare and shooting off its first signal of what it's going to do in the next bull run. This is just a small snippet of how powerful of a move is coming when you measure Hex in Bitcoin or when you measure Hex in Ethereum. And if you want help reading these charts, that's another thing that I provide through the coursework and through the Telegram group and through the chart sets. And so we go in here about like correlations and understanding correlations and how Hex over the past 30 days has went to the beat of its own drum 75% of the time. So 75% of the time, Hex is going to move the way Hex wants to move, regardless of what the rest of the market's going to do. That's a super cool thing because That means that Bitcoin maxis and Ethereum maxis can get a small percentage of their pie, put it into Hex, and then they can count on the fact that Hex is going to perform on the days when Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't. It's a way of balancing out a portfolio. So another thing I went into here was how, on this blog post, was how the OA, which is one of the largest wallet in Hex, holds support off of the Hedron Hex pair, and how that was going to affect Hex price and Hedron price moving forward. And this is why I said, a lot of times I feel like I have to validate for the community that things that I say aren't just willy-nilly or just like off the drop of a hat, or like just there's actual substance to what I'm trying to convey, because these big moves, these big shakeups in the system, they only happen once every quarter or once a year even sometimes, and you want to know when they happen so you can reposition to be on the right side of these trades. And so basically what happened here was the OA pulled 52 million Hex off the market and out of the supply forever. That means that Hedron and Hex are now not so tied together by liquidity, and they can float more freely against each other, and their prices will be more independent of each other. And so then I go into a theory from the technical perspective of how Hedron was set up now on the USDC pair, that now that it wasn't so bound to Hex, Hex can move rapidly to the upside and got rid of the dead weight of Hedron and Icosa and the rest that's going to hold it back from going higher faster. And that Hedron could potentially fall relative to Hex, both in dollar terms and in Hex terms. Not that that's 100% guarantee, but that was a high probability of happening. At the same time, maxi holders, some big maxi holder dumped a big bag of maxi token. So Maximus DAO is a 15-year Hex stake, tokenized, and at the end of the 15 years, you convert that maxi back in for all of the Hex plus the interest proportionally to how much you have of the coin. So somebody went and they dumped this wick all the way into a discount for the first time since the very beginning of maxi at the launch. And anybody that had resting limit orders down here caught that and made a huge profit. And then the guy that did that converted the coin into Hedron and got 47 billion Hedron by getting rid of 2.2 million maxi. So I don't know what the motives was for behind it, but that was just a huge move in this space. So I guess without going too much further into the blog, I mean, there's a lot in here that you can come and read. These are free, and I'll do them like roughly once a week. We detailed the God whale stake that's coming out, and some quotes that Richard Hart thinks, you guys understand that 10 cents Hex doesn't matter on the way to $100, right? And at the same time, you got the God whale saying that he believes that one Hex can become worth more than one Bitcoin one day. So these guys that have hundreds of millions of dollars verifiable in their addresses on the chain are saying things like this. They're the biggest bulls of Hex, and they're not selling Hex. And so we're looking at these guys as leaders in the space that are going to drive price up to all-time highs and do it in a quick order. And this chart tries to explain how fast that move can happen. So if you're new to Hex, you missed 500 days of crashing, but now it's going to start going back up again. And I think it's time to start thinking seriously about capturing as much Hex value as you can under 10 cents before the price can rip all the way back up to 40 to 50 cents in a matter of a week or two. And so that's my big, my call to action is like, do not get left behind. Understand when Hex moves. Hex moves rapidly. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that you've now gotten a second chance at.
Well, that's a beautiful blog post, man. You made me excited to read that myself. I will sign up right after the stream. I cannot imagine that I have not seen that before. And I hope that so many others here maybe see this for the first time, and you have like 200 more subscribers tomorrow, man. I think that's exactly what everybody needs to see. So I have two questions, maybe even three. Let's go into this chart that you're showing here right now. Because am I right if I see like this a lot of green candles here? And if you go back back to the last pump where Hex and Ethereum, like maybe even something like decorrelated, because Hex just shoot up in price, and this did the same here with Bitcoin price, for example. And now we are seeing something like this right now. Am I right? Like it could go
You're
up
right.
like even further from now on.
Yep. I think you're seeing that against Bitcoin, Hex has broken out from the yellow downtrend and the white downtrend. And so that once you're above that and price is supported there, you're basically starting to get into like low gravity zone where the price can easily drift higher. And you see here on Ethereum, it broke out as well from its major downtrend resistance. And that's really bullish, because that means that you're right, Hex is decorrelating away. That's what this matrix is saying, is that 23% of the time over the past 30 days, Hex did the same price action as Bitcoin, only 23% of the time. The other 75-ish% of the time, Hex did its own thing. And then for the same for Ethereum, 28% of the time it did the same thing, and the remainder of the time it did its own thing. So it is decorrelating. It's more of the time than not, it's doing what it wants to do, regardless of what Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing over the past 30 days. The time frame is important, because for the last 500 days, it was more correlated. Now in the last 30 days, it's become less correlated.
And especially with what you said before, with the liquidity, we have the same situation. It's just the right time to get in, accumulate as much Hex as possible, and Pulschain is around the corner. Man, you make me so excited. But this was just one part of your site here and what you're doing. This is the free part, as I understood, right?
Yep.
What else is there that you can show us? Because man, I'm
Sure.
all in. I want to know everything here that you're doing, because you put in so much effort, and I think we all, as a community, can just participate and benefit from it, and make even more gains if we understand exactly what is going on at what certain time. So, what is the next thing that you can show us?
So the other thing that I have for free is, if you click on resources, I'm going to have technical analysis data, market data, cryptocurrency tools, Hex tools, and then just general like larger thinking philosophy, and then book suggestions of things that I think, if you want to go directly to the source, click on book suggestions, you can go see the stuff that I'm reading to where I'm getting my information from. So if I click on technical analysis, for example, this is like an early in development. But if you want to like know general pattern recognition and stuff, like you click on, let's say, flags and pennants. You click on this, and then it goes in here and describes like, okay, well, what's a bull flag? And now you can see, well, this is what a bull flag is. These are different formations of bull flags, and this is what they mean. And you can read about them and learn how to trade them from the documentation here. So maybe you'll be watching the Hex chart, and then in my blog post, I'll reference like Hex is in a bull flag, and then you can click the word bull flag, and it'll pull you into this page on the resources page. You can read more about bull flags or bull pennants or bear pennants or whatever it may be. So this is going to be a giant resource of different trading indicators, different tools on TradingView, just general market psychology and risk management for portfolios, and then just different candlestick data, support and resistance. This is going to be all loaded out. This is stuff I'm working on a daily basis on top of the chart sets, blogs, and streaming. I did 3 streams last week. I do a private stream for paid members on Monday nights at 5:30 Eastern, and that's where I give away my best stuff. But I do give a lot away. For 2.5 years, I've given a lot away for free, and that's always going to be a thing. Is I think it's important that the community doesn't feel like they're left behind if they can't afford something or they don't want to purchase anything. So I'm going to have free tools on the website. I'm going to have free blog posts. So there is something there for you guys too. But if you get into the paid stuff, this is like my bread and butter, is the chart sets. This is where I go in here, and I'll give you guys a look at my most recent chart set, so you can get a feeling for what that is all about. So paid members would click this button, and then they'll get access to the content that's behind the paywall. So inside of here, for example, let's say you want to look at one of the February chart sets. Let's click on the 9th. We won't do the most recent one. We'll do the 9th. I did one yesterday, but I'm going to keep that under wraps.
Nice.
So So this was from February 9th. And you get a table of contents. This is like the data that's in the slide deck. Federal data is like, what the Federal Reserve is doing, how you can predict the next market crash and in the stock market, and what will that mean for cryptocurrency? Um, what's the dollar doing? Because when the dollar is going up and it's strong, crypto gets hurt. When the dollar is going down, crypto gets stronger. And that's just the relationship that they have. They're negatively correlated from each other. You get stock market data, general crypto data, Bitcoin, Ethereum versus Bitcoin ratio. And then I get into the DeFi ecosystems like Hex. You can see here, this was the Hex chart from a few days ago. I actually had us pulling back into this trend line. I had some RSI data down here, relative strength index, and anticipating that we would come down and test this lower bound and then bounce. Well, we did. We came down here. We tested not quite as low as these red arrows pointed. We actually bounced right around under the white line at 4.2 cents, which is where the liquidity was. And we came up and tapped that white dotted line there exactly and came back down, chopped sideways. And now we've testing that 5 cent level again. And I also outlined here where the Godwell stake was ending. And so that might be a motivator for price performance to move higher. Go deep dive into the liquidity, how to read this, what it means, and on and on and on. I mean, this is like the whole entire icosahedron ecosystem. This is Maximus DAO ecosystems, premiums and discounts, some other altcoins. And then again, these are coming out, and then these are links to all the charts so you can link out for yourself. And so that's what can be an example of one of the chart sets.
And can you do me a favor? Just go back. I want to control all the links and just make sure you have good links and no bad links here. Let me see the example of links that you are showing here, because man, this is what we are judging you. No, go all the way down. I want to see all the charts that I can participate in, and then you see there is even some ASICs, PSV, PSB in there. Base Lucky, all our beautiful ecosystem. It's amazing. I cannot wait to click around and do all of those things, man. Thank you so much for all you're doing. And I think this is exactly the content that I need, because I want to really share here as well something, because this is just something that we do in our community, right? We uplift each other, and you are showing all the things that you need to know in order to make chart analysis yourself, basically, right? Here under this link, you find all the links to AXiS ALiVE and your Twitter account. So please follow AXiS ALiVE to get access to axisalive.com as fast as possible. And I also want to show something else here. Dipcatcher, he brought out the Dipcatcher algorithm, which I was able to get for myself. So I will be able to go into TradeView, do all of those amazing things, dollar cost average in, dollar cost average out. That's the idea. And I think you guys should follow along. And with AXiS ALiVE's tool here, with his platform, you really have everything that you need to do and know in order to do so. And I think this is just bringing so much value for the Hex ecosystem. So is there anything else that you want to show to the viewers here before we go on to the next topic, which is the Godwell? You were just mentioning him again. And I'm so happy that you showed his address in your platform there somewhere, because so I don't have to dox him, Maybe we can go here back. It is so funny because we are showing things from the Godwell all the time. And I'm always thinking, when does that go too far? Is it already doxing because it's showing his activity, right? Here I have pictures of things, what the Godwell is doing. And he already has a stake that is bleeding out. This we will discuss in a second. But first, AXiS, is there anything else that you want to share from your platform?
Yep. Just another thing I forgot to mention was free on here is if you ever want to go back and look at and by the way, this interview will be on here as well. Any of my past videos from the past 2.5 years is in this public video archive. So it's kind of like the pulsetube.com, where I came and I reposted all of my videos under different categories. So whether you want to look at game theory and tokenomics, macro market analysis, think tank type stuff, interviews, this one will go under interviews. It's all in here, so you can come check that out for free as well.
Amazing.
Beyond that, man, just there's a classroom, which this will get updated with new content. I'm trying to make this from super basic level stuff for like what you do when you guys go on the road and you try to teach people the basics of crypto. I want to go from that level all the way to the most advanced charting 101, advanced metrics, and all that stuff as well. So again, this is still a work in progress. But yeah, I got a Telegram group for paid members as well. that's basically the nuts and bolts of the website. The work in progress, and it'll continue to improve over the next 2 years. So.
And I'm telling you, AXiS, we have 120 people watching here. It's exciting like this in the bear market. And can you imagine the bull market comes in? That it comes in, you have basically just shown on the chart, really exciting times. The market sentiment is about to change with pulse chain, I remember 2 other more questions that are really interesting. So let's go back to the chart of liquidity and Hex, where you said that the OA pulled the liquidity from Hedron and Hex, and now Hex is not as doesn't have this much of weight anymore and can now go up more easily, right? But isn't that the same true with Hedron or Maxi, for example? Can these assets maybe also shoot up more easy?
Absolutely. So because the liquidity was pulled, let me try to explain this in a very simple way. Before, see these 2 really big, tall blue bars right here, guys? This is like the most of the Hedron that's in the pool still. But before, these bars had about 10 more of these big bars here, where there was 52 million hex sitting here. So as hex price would have went up to 5 cents, 6 cents, 7 cents, 8 cents, if Hedron price didn't keep up with hex, the Hedron price would have fell into this wall, because hex versus Hedron, the ratio would have changed, and big hex dolphins and sharks could have swapped hex for Hedron, thus pulling Hedron up but pushing hex down. And another thing that could happen was people could have swapped for hex, and because of this liquidity being bound together, the router would have went and traded out Hedron for hex at a cheaper price on the router, on the Uniswap router. And so that would have affected the price of hex as well. So what happened when he pulled that away was it got rid of all of the binding potential that was there, so that hex and Hedron now can move more freely and are independently of each other, instead of being like gridlocked together. So that, hex would go up, but it would have Hedron tanking it back down, so it would take more economic energy. Now hex can go up, and now someone can come in and buy Hedron directly and push it up quickly too. They'll chase each other like this now, instead of where before Hedron would have went along for a free ride, so to speak, but also held it down, sort of. So and that 52 million hex is pulled off the market forever, so that no users can get that anymore, which is bullish for hex price. So it's not like good or bad. It's just a whole new way for the coins to play out now. So yeah, there's less hex and Hedron binding those 2 pairs together, but now Hedron can be on its own and perform on its own based on more of its own buys and sells in dollar terms, and hex can perform more on its own based on buys and sells. The difference is there's 300 to 400 people a day buying hex, and there's only let's see, right today we had 287 buys, 224 sells. That's a lot of volume. Versus Hedron, which had 43 buys and 28 sells. So hex is doing all the hard work and volume, and Hedron is a smaller pool with lower volume. So technically, Hedron can move just as easily with a few big buys, but hex is going to have more momentum that's going to push it a lot higher over the shorter time frame, based on momentum and sentiment and the whale games that are going on in the price. So there's a lot of angles to look at these systems, and the way that they'll play out ultimately is up to the market.
I don't know, man. It's exactly 2 angles that you can play. Do you want to buy hex, or do you buy Hedron? It is that easy. And if you're a long-term staker, if you believe in your t-shirts and you want to have more t-shirts than you ever had before, there are players in the ecosystem that play it exactly like this. They buy Hedron, they accumulate HSI stakes with these Hedron, and then they have more t-shirts for a cheaper price. And this is how they are able to have more t-shirts than they had before. But if you want to buy hex, make 10,000 X and have the price appreciation, man, then hex is your game, I believe. What do you say to that?
100% agree with you. That I think from a whale perspective, think about this. If you let the Hedron price crash, let's say, you can get T-shares in the HSI auctions for even cheaper because you can come buy cheaper Hedron up. But that very dynamic is what's going to keep Hedron from falling, because people are going to continue to buy Hedron to still get 50% off, 60% off HSIs, which is hex stakes. So that's why you don't know. You don't know it, like exactly, how it's going to play out. Right now, the Hedron chart doesn't look that good to me, just from a perspective of this is a clear technical head and shoulders pattern, which usually has a downside target. This is the 21 daily bull market support band. If you test the daily bull market support band, you fail, you come up to retest and you break lower, that thing's going down, which is good because then if you're a buyer of hex stakes, you can accumulate Hedron at a huge discount and go buy cheap HSIs when they come due. You could potentially get Hedron 30% off and then get more hex through the HSIs. Or you can go buy hex directly off market and follow the pump up. Because right now it's bound by less liquidity to other things. And hex can move more freely now to the upside with all of the buys and sells coming in, like all the demand that's there. Because remember, hex is doing 300 to 400, buys and sells a day. And it did $95 million in volume on the last major pump. So that's $100 million of volume. That's a ton of volume that Hedron's not getting. So maybe because of the low volume on Hedron, the community will let the Hedron price fall a little more so they can get more cheap Hedron to get more cheap hex stakes in the HSI auction. You got to think about all this market psychology and timing this stuff when it's happening. Now, if hex just rips all the way to 20 cents, there's a good chance that Hedron could still follow it a little bit, right? Because the gap between the price of T-shares at 20-cent hex and Hedron staying flat is too big of a gap that somebody will take that opportunity to buy Hedron to get a better deal. Now they'll buy it rather than letting it fall. If hex stayed sideways for a little longer, maybe Hedron falls over harder, right? So it's just there's a lot of variables there, and it takes a long time to get your mind around all this stuff. But bear with me and stick with it and learn this stuff and watch the chart. And if you don't have the time to do that, just stake it and make it, baby.
It's so beautiful. You can stake everything. You can stake Hedron. You can stake ICOSA. If you, accumulate Hedron, then you win at the end because then you get more hex, right? If you buy hex, then you win because you are, able to do more AXiS in price appreciation, depending on what play you want to play. And, it's not like buying Hedron is bad because this is at the end what brings you more hex, more T-shares. This is just more passive income. And this is exactly how you play the game. So you zoomed out now and you showed us the next leg up basically, right? Or is that the leg before? What do you want to get at here?
So this is hex and this is the 4-hour chart. And I just wanted to bring your attention to the amount of volume that came in today. There's about $4.35 million came in today, and shot the price up. Like I think it was like 11 or 12%. And so right now, hex is in a technical pattern called an ascending triangle. And when hex gets bullish, hex prints ascending triangles. I know you remember these, A-Bit. I know you remember these from 2021 when we'd come up, we'd create a triangle, and then we'd get squeeze. Oh, screwed it up. Get squeezed up into the triangle, and then right at the end of the move, you pop out the top. And the indicator here is the volume. Down here, this big green bar. So you can see that, for the last week, we've been trading 1.5 mil, 1.3 mil, 1 mil, 500K, 340K, 260K, and then 260K. And then all of a sudden today, you get 4.3 mil in the pool. And that's coming in on what's happening on ETH, which was a big move to the upside on Ethereum, big move to the upside on Bitcoin, protecting these lower price targets. So the whole market is agreeing that with that consumer price index data that came in from the macro legacy world, that maximum pain is to the upside, and that I think there's upside in all these charts to come in the short term.
And right now, I see that influencers like Ivan on Tech are talking about Hex, that we have more participation of people, of Hexicans liking, doing their part of tweeting and so on. It's just beautiful to see so many information in the space, and everybody plays their role, and you do your part with AXiSalive.com. What a beautiful site. And now I think, you know what we should do? Look a little bit into the other coins, because we have discussed Hedron. Let's also look at the Maxi chart, because people are always asking, sure, by Hex, Hedron, Maxi, what is the right play? Then there's Decky also in a huge discount. What can you tell us about these before we look into the Godwell and what he is doing with his stake?
Yeah. So I do a deep dive into the Maxi token. Right now it's at a premium, so you're getting 12% more Hex for every Maxi you hold based on a 1-to-1, not including the interest. And I know it's kind of convoluted, it might not make sense on the surface. Basically, if 1 Hex equals 1 Maxi, you're getting 12% more Hex for every Maxi you own right now. So it's been in a massive downtrend against Hex for a very long time since it topped, but it got as high as 2.4 times what a Hex was worth. And this is important because anytime you can get Maxi around parity, meaning 1 Maxi to 1 Hex, the yellow line, the closer you get to that level or discount, that's the time to buy something like this. Because once the sentiment flips and Hex is in a full-on bull market, Maxi, Deci, Poly for Hedron, even icosahedron, all that stuff's gonna moonshot, because once true speculation comes into the market, these overvaluations are going to come again. Like wasn't just like a one and done. Maxi's still backed by Hex. Nothing's really changed there. The code's immutable. But if that's all the same, the only thing that's changed is the hype died down and people needed to sell in order to pay for bills. That's all that happened here. So any kind of time that you get a token like Maxi, Deci, any of these tokens come down to parity, you're better off getting, I shouldn't say you're better off. It's a good opportunity for somebody that wants to spread their risk across multiple assets to get access to in the case of Maxi, a 15-year Hex stake without incurring the gas fees when the stake matures. And then you ride this thing up through the next bull run, this thing could go back up to these levels again. I could easily see Maxi being worth 2-to-1 hexes in the short term, like in the next 2 to 3 years, easily. It can go much higher than that even, because it's backed by this insane amount of interest as being printed, and just insane to me that they're so low. Let me see if I can bring something up for you here.
And
so when
that's
I look,
really alpha. We have in the people vote for AXiSalive for the the Hexi Awards that we have and that we give away on the Hex Cruise. And you guys can all vote, because there we have titles like Most Funny Hexicans, Best Alpha, and all kinds of funny things. These are built for the community to participate, and will really show what influencer in Hex gives the most effort. And we want to just thank you for this kind of thing. So that's why you guys, 120 people, go to KSB TV right now and check out the Hex Awards and vote for AXiSalive for the Hexiest Alpha that we have in the community. That would be amazing. So what else do you have here?
So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into like the discounts and the premiums on all these pairs. So this is the way that I set it up for my members. Is I come in here, I got you recognize these names, Deci, Lucky, Trio. It's all of the perpetual Hex stakes, and basically what I'm doing here is I'm showing you whether or not it's a premium or it's a discount. So if in the case of like Deci, which is a 10-year stake, it's at a huge discount. It's at a 21% discount from parity, meaning you can get 20% more Deci than you would if you you get, let's see, if you want to go buy the Hex off market, you're paying full price. If you're buying the Deci, you're getting 120% the Hex. And in the case of Lucky, it's about 19% off. Trio is it's around parity, and the base pair failed to load. But this is how I set it up. And it's funny because the farther you go out in time, The 10-year is the most discounted. The 7-year is next in line. The 3 years basically at parity, and I'm pretty sure base was a little bit of a premium. The only one that doesn't follow that rule is Maxi, which was the first one, which has still got a decent premium. Even though that guy sold down the price yesterday for Hedron, it still got bought right back up. So in my opinion, I think that these are a huge opportunity to buy Hex on discount in the same way that you can buy Hedron and get Hex stakes on discount right now. The market does not understand these systems, or the liquidity is so low that nobody's taken advantage of the opportunity yet. But when the market gets really, really bullish in the future, you can count on these going up and creating big premiums against Hex.
Exactly, because at the end, you know, it is all opportunity. And I think this is exactly what you meant. There are certain levels, you know, if you see cryptocurrency being as something that can make you financially free, then here you have it, everything laid out. I think this is the opportunity of a lifetime with Hex, Maxi, you know, with Decky, Lucky, with all the perpetuals. The first people in the first level would buy Hex, you know, but the people that are already in the next level, they will buy something that leverage their they're doing their money that they have, and they have to invest into the right assets to then make the most gains. And here on your platform is everything so detailed and really, really nice presented. It's just beautiful. AXiS ALiVE, is there anything else that you want to point out here? Because then we can also go into the next topic, which is the Godwell.
Yeah, I think I'm just doing this for you. I don't normally talk about the dog coin ecosystem, but because I got you here, I figured I'd
Nice.
point out that, you know, Pulse Doge has been having a pretty rough run here for the last, how long now has it been? For 65 days, it's been getting beat up pretty bad. It's been in a giant downwards parabola, which I coined the term bearabola because it's in a giant bearish parabola against Hex here on the bottom right quadrant, you can see. And you can see that it's struggling to get above and hold these levels here. But what I want to draw your attention to on this particular ecosystem is ASIC, which is breaking out. And I think that if ASIC miners in the Bitcoin world are the thing that prints you money legally in the real world, then in the Pulse Doge ecosystem, ASIC to token is the thing that's printing you money legally digitally. And so I think that in the real world, ASIC miners, the price of them is dependent on the price of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin price is up, ASIC miners become worth more because they print you more dollar amount per day. If Bitcoin price is down, ASIC miners go down in price. That's just the way mining works. But in Pulse Dogecoin, there's no electricity costs. You don't have to buy in a piece of equipment. You don't have to find a place to hook it up. So this is almost the reverse of that. And what we're seeing is that the ASIC miner price, the price of the money printer, is actually rising and breaking trend faster than the underlying asset. And I'll let you, you know, kind of figure out or take of that what you will. But to me, ASIC is the leader for this ecosystem right now coming out of its bear market. Godwell or some large account did buy a ton of it here on this candle on Pulse Dogecoin. So those are things to keep in mind there. So take that however you want to take that.
And at the end, you know, it is what I said in the early beginning of the stream. I believe cryptocurrency is a ticker symbol that the people buy in order to hope that the price goes up and define financial freedom. And then when the market sentiments changes and they see something beautifully designed, like Pulse Dogecoin given out for free to the Hexicans, the market sentiment will get into buy coin because has dog, and it will be so funny to see when you have the bull market again. Pulse chain is out, Pulse X is out, we can all trade. It is going to be the wild west of crypto. And in order to celebrate all of this, it was basically an amazing stream that we have to look a little bit into the Godwell, and you already showed his address today on stream, and I have something prepared here, just 4 things that I want to really mention really quick, because you know, you guys can do the research for yourself. So many people ask me, hey, what is the address of the God whale? And you just go here to hex.vision, and we know today on Valentine's Day his stake is coming out. It's not like he can be really anonymous, because he has this much power in the ecosystem, and just everybody is looking at his behavior. So here on the right side, we see it is a staker with how much hex? It's like an ungodly amount of hex that is staked here, and here we see it 55 million. Is this correct? I think that's not correct. I have to sort this out by how much hex is staked. So let me do that really quick.
I was gonna say your tweet. I saw your tweet about the big stake that he's letting bleed right now, plus the stake he's got in the fire right now. It's definitely got me thinking, like, what the heck is this guy about to do?
Exactly. What is going on here? Because he has another stake that is already bleeding. Somebody is saying, hey, I will end stake that for him. And we can ask us the question, is this really what he wants? Doesn't he do all those things intentionally? What do you think, AXiS? And until then, I will figure out how I have to figure and here update the chart. Let me update here Hex Vision, and give me your answer. What do you think, he does that intentionally, or is it like stupidly forgotten millions of dollars to end stake?
Yeah. So before I knew about that January stake, my thinking was, okay, God Whale has an opportunity here to stake every 45 days with that 2 billion hex and ratchet up the price of the T-shares every single day. I'm sorry, every 45 days, or however long time frame he wants. And what that does is every 45-ish days, he could be pushing up the T-share rate by 600 to 700 hex every time he does that. And if he did that every 45 days for 1 year, he himself would push the price of T-shares up by 6,500 hex per T-share, which would be an insane amount. You know what I mean? Especially if the price of hex is increasing, because then it compounds the dollar price. So if you want to pull up my site, I actually went deeper into that.
Give me this number again. How much have you calculated he would ratchet up the T-share price?
Yep. So on this blog post, this was the last week's blog. I detailed how the God Whale was going to end the stake that came out today. Well, he hasn't ended it yet, and I forgot that he had that big one from January. So if he ends them, if he just ends the one from today, it's going to push the price of T-shares from 25,700 to 26,450. It was like roughly 660 or 700 hex, roughly. And so I calculated it out. If he did that every 45 days, he would move it up 6,500 hex over 1 year. And so that would be at 3.8 cent hex. The dollar amount would be $273 per T-share. He could increase the price himself. But then if the price doubles, it would actually be $547. If the price doubles again, he can push up the price $1,000. If the price doubles again, $2,000, then $4,000, and going on and on. By the time you're back to all-time high, if he ratchets the share rate up every 45 days, he himself can increase the price of a T-share by $4,300 US.
That's beautiful. I like what I am seeing here, and it's so crazy. What does it tell us about this kind of behavior? Why? Give us an answer here.
So yeah, to answer your question, why isn't he ending the stakes? Well, I think he'll probably end them both at the same time to ratchet the share rate up higher at the same time. I think that might be what he does. But beyond that, I think he's kind of proving that, look, guys, I appreciate you guys as a community. Here, I want to get back to you guys. I have a lot of hex. Here, let my stake bleed out. It's not that important to me. I'll bleed out my hex back to you. And then when he finally does decide to end his stakes, what I said will come true, is that he'll ratchet up the share rate. But right now, it's just not that important to him to end. And to me, it's like a sign of good faith to the community that, look, guys, I never sell, and I'm even willing to let myself bleed for you, so to speak.
So this is something internally that is going on, just amazing. I am 100% convicted the same. I saw somebody on Twitter saying, hi, I will end this stake. And then I'm really saying, like, this is probably not what he wants. I think he wants to bleed, because a player like this, wants to do every single thing that he does intentionally. And it's just beautiful that we have a player like this on our side, So let's get into the analysis here of his stake, I was able to sort it out correctly now. And all I forgot to do is, because Hex.vision is a kind of an advanced tool. You can find every single detail about Hex and staking and whatever you want on the site. So I just had to filter the last a week, and now I filter for staked Hex, and you see it's 2 billion Hex, and here we have his address. And then if I put it into stake Hex today, what happens? Nothing happens, because somehow stake Hex today doesn't work anymore. Can somebody confirm this? Like, this is a third party, developer, has nothing to do with Hex, but I enjoyed this site so much. I think it was beautiful, and for some reason today it doesn't work anymore. It's the first time that I encountered that, and I'm able to emulate the stake of the Godware here on backup Hex today, and that's where I saw something really interesting as well. Maybe you can explain that to me, because if I'm going here to the right side, I see that 2 stakes are burning here. One is with 1 million Hex and one is with 300 million Hex. And what I had to do is go to Etherscan, check everything out, and here is the last stake that is ending today. Today is Valentine's Day, and just to have the very, very best representation of those stakes, I'm going here to Staker app. I delete all the addresses that I have in there. Then I put in the Godwell address, and we have these beautiful pictures. It's right now $400 million worth of Hex in dollar terms. Almost 8 billion Hex is staked, 205 million accrued, and his staking duration is 3.57 years. And I think this is really cool for me personally as well, because I am staked. Not only did I buy into Hex earlier than the real Godware, but I also have a longer average staking duration than the real Godware. And this really shows, like, it gives the smaller player in Hex possibility to really get more T-shares, and really participate from the exponential curve, how Hex distribution is paid out to the staker class over the time. You just have to stake out longer. So let's see, what else do we have? Here's nothing available for right now. Maybe we can check that on Etherscan again if he really has not unstaked until now. But this picture was taken about 2 hours ago. He has 5% of all the T-shares. It's a humongous amount. AXiS ALiVE, if you're seeing something like this, how many T-shares this guy has? Does that encourage you? Oh man, there's somebody having so much more than I have? Or is it more of a, man, this guy is cool and I wish I would have as many T-shirts as he has? Like, which direction do you go?
We always want to have that many everybody wants more T-shirts, dude. That's just the way it is.
Exactly.
I think he's proven, when you look at the chain, he's a good actor for price. A lot of the big whales in the system, not just the God whale, but many of them are pretty good for price. A lot of the reason why Hex performed so well in 2020 and 2021 was because of those guys pushing price higher and giving back to the ecosystem. Because they do believe that one Hex can be worth 1 Bitcoin one day. And so all of this type of behavior just solidifies to me that they're in it for the long haul and that they're not impatient. And in the case of Godwell, he's been in Ethereum since the beginning, and he held his bags all the way through. So he's already got hundreds of millions of dollars of Ethereum and USDC. So he sure doesn't need to sell his Hex bags, right? He's thinking 40 or 50 years into the future with this play. And so I think he's going to be a good actor in the system for many, many years to come.
But AXiS, let me ask you a question, and I hope it goes in the right direction that I wanted it to go. Have you ever had something like this happen? Maybe not with Hex, but with Hedron, with ICOSA, with anything else that you had to mint and where you really had to pull it out at the right time? Of course, in Hex, we have a 2 weeks grace period, but I must say it happened to me in Hex. It happened to me in Hedron. It's crazy how it works if you have so many things to look after. Did anything like this where you missed out on yield happen to you?
Let me think here. I've been pretty on top of it for my personal stash of stuff. There was one point, let's see. I've never really had I don't have enough to look after, but I don't have like hundreds of stakes. I've tried to minimize my stakes and stuff, so I think I've been pretty on the ball. I just keep a small amount of stakes that's really consolidated and strategically placed, and I don't let stuff go late. I try to know what I have and keep it consolidated more rather than spreading it really thin. But I'm also not the biggest player in the system. You know, I'd say I'm pretty average. So that's just the thing, is like everyone's coming from a different vantage point. Everyone's got different goals and stuff. And I think we all want more T-shares. And yeah, just remember that if you're going to go end a stake, make sure that you go mint your hedron first, because if you don't, it's going to be gone. And so like that's free money that you're throwing away. So make sure you're remembering your hedron, you're getting your airdrops like communists, if that ever takes off. And just kind of keep an eye on like my website or up with the YouTubers. They're usually pretty good about reminding people about what's to come. And maybe if you're having trouble remembering like stakes and stuff, have like reminders set on a calendar or something that you can kind of, you know, and maybe write down a list of stuff like a best practices of things that you can do in the right order so that you don't make a mistake. In the case of this big stake here from the Godwell, I don't think he's forgotten about it. I think he's waiting for the price to do a specific thing, to hit the end stake button and then make sure that the price does what he wants it to do.
I think exactly the same. You know, with me, it is that I have so many hex stakes, really, because, you know, in the beginning, I was a pleb. I did not really know about all the right things. And that's why I'm so glad now that you brought out a tool for the Hexicans where they can just soak up all the alpha. AXiS.ALiVE.com, I think, is the page, right? And I will definitely sign up for that. Thank you so much for the stream today. Is there anything else to say here about this tweet? Here is it. It is, by the way, I just like the 4th picture. If you have not seen it, let me copy paste it for you and put it into the chat, guys. Would be amazing if you leave me a like there as well. The stream is going and blowing up today. I really, really enjoy that. AXiS Live, are there maybe some questions that you want to ask me before we head out here?
Yeah. Are you ready for the cruise? I'll be there.
Oh man, amazing. Thanks for mentioning the cruise. Hex.com, you guys. This is what KSB TV is working on since the last couple of months. It's going to be so exciting. We have more than 90 Hexicans coming and, you know, just enjoying getting together, networking. And obviously, I will be there as well, AXiS Live. This is one of the beautiful events that we throw in the Hex community. And I think this is the #1 reason why Hex will be so successful in the future, because Richard Hart was able to build a community, not just a perfect design product, because we have many like this out there. What it really takes is a community with participants like AXiS ALiVE, you know, like all the amazing players like Medi, Cabana, RG3, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, we would be here until tomorrow if I would have to name them all.
Yeah, the other thing was, I want to know, like, if you guys are still on for the Million Pulse tour. Like, when Pulse Chain launches, are we doing another year of traveling around the U.S., around the world, preaching the good word?
Man, I can tell you this is at least what I want to do. So at the end, it doesn't really matter what my answer is to this. But, you know, we always wanted to make the Million Pulse through a community tour where everybody who wants to participate can just say, hey, let's do that. I will meet with Hexicans in a Telegram chat. And from there on, we make things happen. And, you know, if Pulse Chain goes up, starts, then I want to be in America. I cannot imagine to be in a better country than America, even though the weather here in Mexico is beautiful, but I want to be with the Hexicans at all times, you know, meet them. And the bull market, the next one, is gonna be a beautiful time. So yes, I will be on the road, and then let's see where the community actually will bring it to. If you guys want to learn more about the Million Pulse Tour, it's all just in the planning. Go to KSB TV. On KSB TV YouTube, you find all the testimonials. And just recently, man, I made a beautiful testimonial of the only Juan. He escaped death 4 times before he found Hex, also through SciVive. It's really an amazing story. Right now, community members from KSB TV on YouTube can already watch it. And in a couple of days, we will also bring it out for the Hexicans to view it basically for free. The membership costs $2. So I was hoping to bring some people into the membership. That's all those tools that we have available, right? AXiS ALiVE, thank you so much for this stream today. It was an amazing alpha. You guys, under this video description, you find all the links that you need to know to learn more about AXisALive.com. Follow AXiS on Twitter and also go to abit_hex. Now what I will do is play the outro. It is going to be a different one than the last time. AXiS, the last words go to you before we end the stream.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I wish you guys the best in 2023. Make sure you're DCAing in and do not get left behind. Appreciate y'all.
Awesome. See you.
If you could live forever, would you?
Yes.
Okay, we're
Don't
done
even
at
have
the
to
interview.
finish the sentence.
Yes. No, okay, sure, that's an attractive idea. But the way I look at it is the knowledge that I'm going to die that creates the focus that I bring to being alive. The urgency of accomplishment, the need to express love now, not later. If we live forever, why ever even get out of bed in the morning? Because you always have tomorrow. That's not the kind of life I want to lead.
But why don't you fear not being around?
I fear living a life where I could have accomplished something and didn't. That's what I fear. I don't fear death.
You don't fear the unknown.
I love the unknown. I love the. You know what I want on my tombstone? My sister has this in her notes, just in case I can't tell anyone after I die. On my tombstone, a quote from Horace Mann, great educator. Be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity.